Welcome to episode 2 of my 2023 training diaries. In the first episode, I showed you highlights from our 3-week trip to Patagonia from back in March. And a couple of weeks after that, I left on my second big adventure of the year to Arizona, where I spent close to a week running with a group of friends here in mid-April. Our original goal had been to run the Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim, a 50-mile route that's becoming increasingly popular amongst ultra runners, and which I last ran way back in 2013. But unfortunately, less than a week before we'd planned to leave, it was announced that the trail to the North Rim would be closed for repairs until the summer. So it was time for a plan B. And the route that we came up with proved to be equally, if not more beautiful and much more secluded than the main corridor trails. So stick around and I'll tell you all about our trip. We flew down on the Sunday to Phoenix, where we rented a car before making a pit stop at Trader Joe's, like we always do when visiting the United States. I'm sure all my Canadian friends can relate.
Yeah, it's kind of intriguing, maybe. I don't know, let's try this one.
Oh, what's that? Fruit balls.
They're amazing. They're like protein balls from New Zealand, plant-based.
To the fruit balls.
Fruit balls.
Yeah.
More fruit balls.
Fruit balls, more fruit balls.
Then we hit the road to make the 90-minute drive to Flagstaff, where we'd be basing ourselves for the week. I was with my friends Cody, Mark, Dimitri, Lewis, and Dave, and our friends Adam and Cassie would be meeting us at the Airbnb that we'd rented.
Yeah, I think it turned out well.
That evening, we went out for a little shakeout run on some of the nearby trails. Flagstaff is considered a mecca for running. It sits at an altitude of 7,000 feet, with an extensive trail system and a vibrant running community. It's no wonder that so many elite athletes choose to live and train there. In fact, our friend Adam used to train in Flagstaff back in his professional triathlon days.
Yeah, it's really cool to be back in Flagstaff. Actually, a little bit of nostalgia yesterday driving up the canyon from Sedona. I saw somebody with a Triathlon Canada jacket on, out on the bike riding up the canyon, and it's cool to see. And I had heard that Triathlon Canada was training here, and this is somewhere I used to come like 10 or 15 years ago to train, and it's an incredible community for it. You know, I used to come out here with Simon Whitfield, who's a very famous Canadian Olympic gold medalist in triathlon, and you'd see people like Ryan Hall at the time and like Dathan Ritzenheim, and and obviously a little later you had Jim Walmsley and I think basically, the whole Coconino Cowboy crew, which, they basically started tearing up. Like Rob Krar lived out here and put in some of his big miles in this area and still lives here. I think the way we described it back then was, imagine the mayor of the town was a trail runner and they just put trails everywhere. It's not necessarily like big mountain trail running, but there's a lot of like really good soft forested runs, and there's a bit of everything. There are hills to run up in the mountains around here, but then there's also just a lot of flat / rolling terrain, which if you're trying to train for speed is really good. There's enough amenities in town, like there's great restaurants and coffee shops, which really matters when you're putting in the big miles. And then also just a really supportive community. It's nice to be somewhere where people are out training as well. You kind of see the energy there, and you're at 7,000 feet. Then you can also drop down. I think Sedona's around 3,000 feet or 4,000 feet. So you can go and do your speed work at a lower elevation and then come and sleep high. And then also, if you wanted to train a little bit higher, you can get up to the top of Mount Humphreys, which I think is like 10 or 11,000 feet. And the road riding is really good. There's nice big shoulders. Cars are respectful. There's great gravel riding and mountain biking as well. And I think it's been an amazing place to train for a race like Western States, as just need to look at the result sheets for Western to see that would work well, or any kind of a marathon block as well. It'd be really good to come train here for a road marathon or basically just a faster running race. Yeah.
We had spent our second day exploring the city and preparing our gear for our big adventure on Tuesday morning. We got up extra early so that we could be on the road for 3:30 a.m. We had a 2-hour drive ahead of us to the Grand Canyon, plus a shuttle to the trailhead from the parking lot. And this is the part that we managed to mess up. Okay, so now we're just waiting for our second shuttle, the right one, which will take us to our trailhead. But we were quite familiar with the parking and shuttle logistics involved in a run to and from both the Bright Angel and South Kaibab trailheads. But somehow we'd missed the fact that from Bright Angel, where we'd planned to leave our vehicles, we'd have to first take a transfer shuttle before taking a second shuttle to Hermit's Rest, basically as far west as you can go with the shuttles. This second shuttle itself took close to 40 minutes, since it stopped at every lookout along the way. So we ended up catching the sunrise from the road instead of on the run as planned.
We are now approaching Hermit's Rest.
Hi guys, have a good day.
Thank you.
Make sure all your stuff was you. You're welcome.
But we managed to hit the trail for 7 a.m., which isn't bad, all things considered. And the views as we descended into the canyon in the morning light were beautiful. Our route would take us down Hermit Trail, which starts much further west into the canyon, then back east across Tonto Trail to the main corridor trails.
Amazing. Yeah. Oh my God.
Hermit Trail proved to be much more technical, as we'd read it would be, but just as scenic and much less busy.
It's even better than I thought. The expanse of the Grand Canyon is beyond my dreams. It's amazing. The colors, the red rock, the green. It's amazing.
You can see where the trail goes down there. Let me like go over that ridge over there, and then you can see the trail down there, a bunch of zigzags. Boom, and then right. Actually, you can see the river as well.
Oh yeah, first eyes on the Colorado River. Look at that. A little over halfway down to the river, we hit the Tonto Plateau, where we began traversing back east along Tonto Trail. This was a rolling trail that dipped in and out of mostly dried up creek beds. It was pretty much entirely exposed to the sun, and there were only a couple of sources to safely filter water from. In fact, 2 of the creeks en route are considered to be radioactive.
So far, I think it's a little bit more technical and quite a bit more interesting in terms of diversity of terrain. So I think anybody looking for a slightly different adventure, I think this is a really good one to go on.
Tonto Trail actually runs for 75 miles across the Tonto Plateau below the South Rim. And I think it would make a pretty cool fast pack one day. We probably started out a little hot, and a couple of the members of our group did start to pay the price after half a day of sun exposure.
We had a pretty good pace today. Slowed down a little bit. A couple of the guys are experiencing some fatigue and some cramping as well, so we're gonna walk for a little bit here. This must be Bright Angel Creek right here. Yeah, wow. Just look at how green this is all of a sudden here.
Nice to be able to traverse across and get to see so much variation. You know, fortunate that we're out here today.
We eventually intersected with Bright Angel Trail, which was quite busy as usual, which felt like a bit of a shock after having been so secluded all morning. At this point, most of the group decided that they'd had enough adventure for one day and began the 1,000-meter or so climb up Bright Angel back to the South Rim. We'd planned the route so that there'd be a bailout option if need be, along with a longer possible variation.
We're gonna make our way down to Phantom Ranch. It's 5 miles. We've got full water bottles, and then we're gonna fill up one more time there. It is getting quite warm, and it's only getting warmer.
3 of us then continued on with the plan to finish the full route, which dropped the rest of the way down Bright Angel to the river, where we'd cross Silver Bridge to Phantom Ranch. There we'd take a break for lunch and a cup of that famous Phantom Ranch lemonade.
Take care, guys.
Yeah, you too. definitely way hotter down here in the canyon. It's got to be at least 30 degrees Celsius, maybe even hotter, maybe 31, 32.
It's a lot warmer. No breeze. Yeah, I'm cooking.
That lemonade's gonna taste pretty good.
Lemonade is gonna taste delicious. I still got probably a very squished burrito that I'm gonna chase down with that lemonade.
I've got a very warm cheese bagel.
Grilled cheese.
Cheese melt. There's the Colorado. There's Silver Bridge up there.
Silver Bridge had been built primarily to carry the pipeline across the river, which runs down from the North Rim to supply the South Rim with its water. It's this pipeline that needed to be repaired, and which was part of the reason for the trail closures. But I've read that this entire pipeline needs to be replaced, so we'll likely see some additional shutdowns of both Bright Angel and North Kaibab Trail in the near future.
Phantom Ranch.
Check this out. 42.04, so we're gonna have to walk around for 160 meters and then get our lemonade. Yeah, look at that, ticking down.
Yeah.
42.14. Closing in, sprint finish here. 42.2. Phantom Ranch Marathon. Let's go get some lemonades. Okay. Hello.
So the thing to get here is the lemonade. The last time I had it, it was still early in the day because we were, making our way over to the North Rim. So I don't think I even finished it. But today, I'm gonna enjoy every single sip.
That's good shit.
Thought that was funny. Influencers in the wild. All right.
All right. Getting locked and loaded.
On the road again. Okay. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it.
We then crossed back over the river on Black Bridge before climbing up South Kaibab Trail back up to the South Rim, finishing in the afternoon light.
So we're just about to head over Black Bridge here through a really cool tunnel, both of which are quite iconic features on the Rim to Rim. So when that bridge was first built, it was actually a suspension bridge, a super sketchy one. You had to go over one at a time. I think they actually made it narrow on purpose so that the mules couldn't turn around if they got scared. The suspension bridge would apparently sway in the wind and would even flip over when the wind got really bad, so it was often shut down. So the construction of this new bridge was a major turning point. We've got about 3 miles left and a fair bit of climbing. 1,000 feet, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd say about 1,000 feet.
Almost there, about 100 meters of vert to go.
Nice.
Nice one. I think the shorter route ended up being about 39 kilometers.
Hey,
Great
success.
Nice.
While the three of us covered around 53 kilometers with 2,650 meters of elevation gain, according to my Coros Vertex 2.
Yeah.
It was this beautiful slog. Yeah, but it was amazing. Yeah.
What it's all about, suffering beautiful places.
Yeah, definitely.
This route was definitely more challenging in terms of terrain and quite a bit slower going, in addition to being more exposed to the sun, but also more interesting and way less busy. So the trail closures maybe were a blessing in disguise, which forced us to explore some different trails, which resulted in a really fun adventure. And I think it'll also make for a much more unique film, but don't hold your breath for the full-length documentary because I've got a few other projects I still need to edit before I'll find time to work on this one. The next day was a recovery day, which I spent working and catching up on calls while most of the group went out for a bike ride. On Thursday, we'd planned to head to nearby Sedona for a little more time on feet. Sedona is only a 45-minute drive from Flagstaff, and quite a scenic one at that. And since it's much lower, this is where a lot of athletes from Flagstaff will go to do some of their more intense workouts. But we were there for the Red Rocks. We decided to run a loop around Cathedral Rock, which is said to be one of the most photographed red rock formations in the area. The trail to the top was certainly busy, but we ended up having the trails on the back side of the loop pretty much to ourselves.
Wouldn't love to be here when it's raining.
You got it.
Almost, man, almost.
Yeah.
Almost had it.
Six. All right, do a little training and come back. I think we'll be able to get this next time.
Friday, we drove back to Phoenix so that we could catch our flights home. So a fairly short trip, but we packed in quite a bit. And running in the desert got me really excited for the Moab 240 mile, my goal race for the season in Utah in October. Over the past week and a half or so since I got back, I've been hitting the trails here in Vancouver again, where spring has finally arrived. It's starting to warm up and we've had some consistent sun, which always helps with the motivation, especially for those longer runs. Audrey and I will both be running the nearby Wild Horse Traverse 52K coming up here in mid-May, so she's been busy training for that one as well. And you can follow both of us on Strava to get a better sense of what we've been up to in terms of training.
In the next episode though, I plan to bring it back to basics and to give you a sense of what my training volume has been like for the past couple of months and how I'll be approaching my training for the rest of the season. And I'll also tell you about something brand new that I'll be experimenting with over the coming months that I'm pretty excited about. And lastly, we'll be launching registration for a new trip that we'll be hosting in summer of 2024. So be sure to subscribe to my newsletter to be the first to hear about all of that and all of my future videos. And I will talk to you in a couple of weeks.